Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our channels. We're streaming on Online Selling with Tina and Reseller Mom. And today we have Georgie from SellerSnap with us to talk about their repricing tool and using AI. Hi, Georgie. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for the introduction. So I am an account manager here at SellerSnap, which is an AI Amazon repricer. We're designed to get you increased margins and get you that buy box share at the highest possible price. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. There we go. And take you through our platform. Let me actually, before I do anything, I think I've logged into the wrong demo platform. There we go. Got it.
And then are you familiar with, oh, there you go. You got it. So I'm going to
Got
add
it.
Perfect.
Got it. So this is an overview of SellerSnap's overview page. Everything's a comparison of data, so total ordered items, revenue, and profit. You can see that you have your FBA, FBM items, more items and repricing, the more this will turn green. And everything is a comparison of data here in SellerSnap. So I'll show you how interactive this becomes in the listings page. Which is where you'll spend most of your time getting set up. Now, in order to get started with us, you need to put in your minimum prices and maximum prices, and then turn on repricing. And this really allows the AI to dynamically reprice to avoid price wars and to really increase your margins. Now, you can do that in a really streamlined fashion, importing your costs either using an integration software, just at the top here. So integrations, system integrations, for example, Inventory Lab. We'll pull in your costs straight away. It's really easy to use. Then we'll set a tier markup or a profit margin percentage on cost, which is a way for us to help you just set it and forget it. And select a profit margin percentage, for example. So we're always adjusting your minimum price to reflect those new fees that come in from Amazon and just making sure you're profitable at all times. So that is an option for minimum prices. And then we also have dynamic max price, which is a cool feature to go over with you guys today. It's a way for us to help you avoid deactivations for high pricing errors. So we're looking at the competitive pricing threshold, the price at which if we're above it, we're likely to get suppressed. We're looking at the most recent deactivation price and a few other metrics in order to set a really good max price based on Amazon's reference points. So those are some of our options for mids and maxes. And I'll go into a few other features, but do you have any questions so far, or do you want to leave all questions for the end?
I don't have any quite yet. I think everybody was really interested in knowing that you guys are working on doing integration into Walmart. I know we want to talk about that later, maybe at the end. And then, from a price point standpoint, I was looking up at the prices and like, what does it all include for the price, and how it functions, how fast does it reprice, all of the AI features, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So I'll, of course, touch on all of those points. Just to go back a step, actually, looking at the listings page. Now, as I mentioned before, this is where you'll spend most of your time. If we see costs, we'll be able to see profit margin, ROI calculation. Now, something that SellerSnap is, takes very seriously is the data. To make sure that the data is accurate data, we have a new feature that's in beta at the moment called Data Hub, which is going to show all of the granular of your data, and it's really easy to load. It's not on the demo platform, of course, because it is in beta, but we've got some really good feedback, so I'm excited if you do end up booting your stores for you to be able to see that. Everything is super interactive. You can see everything in a selected date range. Filters and columns all down below are all customizable, and they amount to these views, these little bubbles. So when you come in and you just want to see items that in stock and FBA, all you do is just make sure that these are visible, save as a new view, and then you can have one of these bubbles and just click on it. So you don't need to waste your time sifting through all of your data. If you're using a previous repricer, you can go and just simply export from them, and then import into SellerSnap, making sure that all the column titles are correct. So by exporting your data, you'll be able to see all the correct column titles, and that's also really easy to just import straight into SellerSnap. So on an individual SKU level, you can see that you can edit every individual SKUs, mins and maxes, etc. And the micro data is here in this little green box. So it's important to see that everything works on a micro and a macro here. So you can see the micro min max calculation, cost times the markup percent, which is the ROI percent, plus any additional costs, fees, equals your min and max. So we're always adjusting to make sure that you're profitable. And I want to just go into repricing settings in more detail now. Now, the AI itself is a very cooperative strategy. It is there to increase your margins, meaning that if there are two competitors on the listing, then it's going to be getting you your fair share. And it's going to want to share the buy box so that all participants in the buy box are going to be getting it at their mid to max range, right? Which is why we have the max price feature. We want to keep you in the mid to max range. That being said, that's not realistic for all environments. So we're really adaptive. And so what you'll see are these conditions. So the AI repricer is the default. And you can also change this to more aggressive strategies depending if you want, for example, a win buy box strategy, which is our AI strategy as well. And it's a more aggressive version of it, meaning that they work really nicely in conjunction with each other, and so conditionally target a higher percentage of buy box share, rather than the other way round with some other rule-based reprices or other reprices, which are dominating the buy box, making sure that you're getting those sales, but you're missing out on those margins. So we recommend to have the AI on as default, and then you can have any condition here in the drop down. For example, if you haven't had a sale in 6 hours, the system will become more aggressive and target a higher percentage of buy box share. Now, to go back to your previous question about how quickly the AI reprices, the AI can reprice as quickly as 2 minutes, but we understand, and the AI understands when it needs to reprice that quickly and when it does not. So it's adapting based on your individual competitive environment. So you'll find that depending on the strategy, the system will reprice a little bit more quickly. So it will reprice the fastest it will reprice is 2 minutes, and then you'll see that it can reprice as quickly as 6 minutes, 15 minutes, depending on whether it needs to.
That makes sense. And I like the no purchase there. Does it also have an option if your inventory is aged, like say it hits 90 days or 180 days, or to help curb the long-term storage fees?
Yes, great question. So we've got 30 days, we've got 60 days, we've got 90 and 180. Now we're bringing all this data through the inventory planning reports from Amazon, so everything is accurate. It's going to automatically change the reprices strategy if you set it as, for example, the inventory older than 90 days. We recommend the win buy box strategy for this as well, because it's actually our liquidation strategy and it is the most aggressive.
Okay.
So we have this as an option. You can also tier them, which is one of our most popular strategies, where you tier them at 90, 180, etc.
Yes.
And then you become more or less aggressive depending on the inventory age.
Okay.
We also have other conditions as well. For example, dealing with buy box suppressions, which is a big one. We also deal with the reprices behavior when the item is back ordered in transit, meaning that we don't want you to just sell out when the item's in transit. So we recommend to have it on the AI.
Mm-hmm.
And a few other conditions. A couple of other ones that I'll mention are the time of day condition, which is where you can set a completely different repricing strategy at a specific time of day when your competition are, dormant. Then you might want to set a more or less aggressive strategy. We also see that the competitor condition is a really useful one. And the reason being is we take the seller ID and we directly compete against your main competitor. And we can do the same for Amazon. And over the years, we've been gathering all the seller IDs that Amazon has disguised itself as. So we've got all of them. We've been putting them in a bunch. And so every time there's a new one, we add it to the list. And so all you need to do is say, if competitor was seller ID Amazon is on the listing, follow competitor Amazon. And you can either match it, you can target, you can drop just slightly below them or above them. You can even ignore them.
So I'm sorry, I didn't know that Amazon had multiple seller IDs.
I did.
I
saw that a
new
few
ones.
years ago. Yes.
Yeah, it's a pretty unknown one actually. It's just from our development team that we've learned that information. So when recently the reason why I'm mentioning it is because recently we did have exactly this moment where another one, we were just like, who is this competitor? They're dominating. And we realized that it was Amazon.
Yeah, they go under different aliases. I want to say I learned that about a year ago, and somebody exposed 2 different store names, and I'm sure they continue to make new ones.
So I know that it's under, like I see a lot of times, sold by Amazon, shipped by Amazon. Are these different names, or is it just different like token IDs?
It's different seller IDs altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to say sold by Amazon. It will be sold by something else.
Yeah, actually,
they'll use a different name. Like it might be by Amazing Shipping, might be the store name or something. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
I know, it makes you start to look into things a little bit more deeply. Yeah. So yeah, you can compete against Amazon, and there are obviously a lot more, but one of our main conditions that we really recommend with the AI as well, the AI has an inbuilt yo-yo already, but we see huge success with yo-yos, and the yo-yo just adds that extra boost. So if you're a seller that you just want to keep everything super high, we just recommend to add a yo-yo on as well, and then you can just set an increment as well and keep it.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm sorry. I don't understand what the yo-yo is.
So basically, a yo-yo is a very simple rule that you can just say increase to max every 3 hours and stay there for 20 minutes. It's just an example.
Okay.
And so it's just boosting everything up. And as we are all aware, as soon as you're at your minimum price, it can be pretty tricky to get up. Now, this is a really great way to actually get up again. And we see really, really nice success with this. So that's good.
Well, and as a buyer, now that I know that, because I see things all the time that I buy regularly, and sometimes it goes, you'll see it on sale. So I'm like, oh, okay, I want to buy that. And sometimes it's not on sale. Now I may just check back once or twice if it's at the high price.
Yep.
Even as a because of course we're sellers and buyers on Amazon.
Yes.
Right? Even as a buyer, I check Keepa when I'm buying something expensive.
Yeah.
It's just like, if it's like a bag of coffee that you always get whatever. But if I'm going to buy a Shark mop or a vacuum or something, I'm going to look at Keepa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. We do have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Nate says, how does AI compete with Amazon unknown seller? Yeah, that's a good.
Like like an unknown seller ID.
I think he means. I think he means when Amazon is using one of their alias names.
Well,
How did the
it's
AI
not possible.
know? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the AI. So the AI itself is going to, like I said before, prioritize the margins. It's going to use like a very So actually, to go back a step, a big piece of information is that the AI is using game theory. Now, it's understanding that it needs to drop and increase, making strategic price changes. Understanding it will understand that this competitor is dominating. So it's going to compete a little bit with them, and then it's going to jump the price up, and it will just bring that competitor up, regardless of whether it's Amazon or not, because typically that seller is going to be using much more of a rule-based system, and so it's going to be undercutting us by a penny or a cent. So it's going to be then shooting the price up, and then competing against Amazon anyway. The understanding, though, is that the competitor condition, it's much more localized and focused on that one specific seller ID.
And on that note, I have been on listings where there's me and say 19 other sellers.
Yes.
And there's always one or two sellers that always dominate the buy box. They maybe will sell 68 units in 1 month, while others have sold nothing or maybe only one or two items. But one thing that I've noticed, a common thread, is oftentimes that particular seller is the one that has the most in stock. Sometimes I think Amazon favors the seller that has 200 in stock versus the one that has maybe 20 in stock. I don't know if that's true, but that's just my own theory.
Well,
so would a Repricer help with something like that?
I guess that would make sense. We can always add conditions that say, like, if like fulfillable quantity is below a certain amount, but generally speaking, we're not a velocity based repricer,
right?
So we're not going to be looking at the velocity of a competitor or our velocity, even in order to understand. Now, that being said, we do have restocking solutions. We have ways of replenishment quantity suggestions where we can use them for replens, but from a repricing perspective, we don't have that ability.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah, go for it.
The first is, if I'm using an AI repricer and Tina's using an AI repricer, and I'm sure Amazon's using their own repricer, like, are the AIs battling each other at any point? I mean, can your AI recognize that the other people have AI?
Yeah.
And adjust, or do they talk to each other? I don't know. It seems very Matrix.
So that's a really good question. I can't speak for all reprices, but I can say that because it is a very cooperative strategy, and Seller Snap's blind to Seller Snap, but it's also always understanding that the main goal is to bring everything up.
Okay.
This is why I'll say yes. We will understand this, and we won't be competing aggressively against other AIs. The goal is to share. If you're using something like WinBuyBox and the other systems are using actually rule-based conditions, that's where things get a little bit more complicated. Because the AIs, yes, but the conditions not.
It's like I'm imagining these AIs like a boxing ring. Like we got AI Rocky Balboa on this side, and we got like AI, Mike Tyson over here. And
I love that visualization. Yeah, no, I mean it's kind of similar. It is like that, maybe slightly less visual actually with them, but yeah, it's a really interesting thing to witness from a data perspective. And we're bringing in the any offer change notifications, we're bringing in all of the data, the repricing logs, etc. So we can really see how it's working with the other sellers. There's just no way of us. If we do the analysis, we can tell immediately whether someone's using AI or not. It's very obvious.
That's interesting. We follow a lot of the AI stuff here, and it's just been amazing to watch and see it grow. My other question, though, is, and this used to be a strategy, I'm not saying it's a good strategy or it's a strategy I've done, but one strategy out there is, let's say we're both on the same listing and
Yes.
you have your repricer to set up more velocity wise, and I see that you have, we'll say 20 in stock or something. There was ways to mess with the repricing to get yours to go down to your minimum, to have you sell out at your minimum price and then jack the price back up. So let's say it's fluctuating around $50, but I know your minimum because I've messed with you enough and I see your minimum's $30. I purposely drag you down. You're going to undercut. So I'll make it so that you're just at your very bare minimum. You sell out like that. And then boom, I go back up to kind of get rid of the competition.
You want them to sell out of their stock.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any if that is like a rule or anything, but have you seen or witnessed that, or
This
is that a
isn't
rule?
necessarily a rule, but this is what the AI is doing anyway. It's dropping in price. It's seeing those competitors who are willing to just completely price drop, and then it's bringing the price up, and then they're getting the sale. You're getting the sale at your mid to max range, and they're still down there. So either they'll follow up with, which is what typically they'll do if they're using rule based, but if they're not, then they're going to be sitting there. And so they'll sell out at that rate and then we'll be at a higher price. And this is where the yo-yo is really effective as well.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Okay, I'm going to add it back into the stage here.
So your software not only reprices, but it also offers replen suggestions.
Yeah, so here's the inventory tab. Now there's lots to know in Seller Snap, but I'm going to highlight some things. Inventory is a big one. So you put in the FBA lead time, for example, which I don't know if you can read this here. It says the number of days from when you order your stock to when it's fulfillable to Amazon's fulfillment centers.
Mm-hmm.
And then we take the required days of coverage. So the number of days you want your inventory to last before it goes out of stock based on your sales velocity and sell-through rate in the last 30 days. And this will determine the suggested quantities to replenish. And so we're using a calculation in order to take this information and then create replenishment quantity for all of your listings.
And I don't know how it's suggesting it, but last year I had experimented, especially when Amazon implemented the low stock inventory fee.
Yeah.
So I found that if I sent in 3 months worth of inventory at a time, that not only did I avoid that, but I also started selling double of what I was when I was only sending in a 30-day, I always had 30-day of stock in at all times.
Right.
Yeah. When I jumped it up to 3 months, it's like I was rewarded with more sales, and that wasn't my goal. I just found that that's what happened.
Yeah. So there are a few things that we can do in that situation, which is using either a condition that says if historical days of supply is like below or greater than 30, for example, then you can set to a strategy that slows down the velocity. So like keeping like follow highest FBA, slowing down the velocity. So you can do that, or setting fulfillable quantity conditions. But generally speaking, we are taking that fee into consideration with the min max calculations anyway. So you don't necessarily need to do that because it inflates based on those fees. But yeah, the replan suggestions are also like very, very useful to mitigate that.
So aside from replens and repricing, what other features does your software offer?
So at the moment, and this is literally stage 1 of stage 2. So we already have been over the last year and a half, 2 years, been offering a Walmart pricing integration to sync your Amazon SKU with your Walmart SKU, building relationships with Walmart over the last couple of years. Now, and our Walmart Repricer, our AI Walmart Repricer is in beta, so it will be released shortly, and then we'll have a full Walmart solution. So that's number 1. That's a big one. As I mentioned before, Data Hub is huge. We're really focused on data here in Seller Snap. So recommend to use it. It's available to all of our sellers when you sign up for your trial as well. Repricing, general, we don't necessarily need to go through that now. We have a few other great features that are just really useful for you guys, like custom columns, so you can just brand all of your items, and scheduled reports, which is a way for us to take all of the information that you want to see based on the views that I showed you before, and then you can have generated reports to your email addresses daily, monthly, or weekly, to just make sure you're keeping track of everything really, really well. Another feature, and one of the most important ones, in my opinion, is bulk edit. Now, bulk edit is a way to do everything in bulk. You just don't need to waste your time doing repricing presets in bulk, turning on competitive pricing threshold information, auto-adjusting min-max. A quick question, but do any of your sellers or yourselves use business repricing?
I've never used business repricing, but I have done special business pricing, just within Amazon, where business buyers pay a different price than everybody else. But I've never repriced for Amazon business.
So just for your information, we have a business repricer as well that it still keeps in the min-max parameters, but you can set different quantity discount strategies that are all automated for you to make sure that you're also getting the business buy box at the highest possible price.
Interesting. Okay.
So a lot of our sellers actually find, maybe you'll find this information useful, that as a lot of people have been hit with Section 3 violations, and deactivations of accounts, we find, generally speaking, that sellers who have business set up and are selling on B2B, they have less deactivations of their stores. So I think it's just a promotion of Amazon that they want to bring people into the business world. And so they don't deactivate their account if they're using it. So that's an interesting.
Huh.
Yeah, a lot of people have been really worried about the deactivations because it seems like they're locking down a lot of brands and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's really tough, when you have quantity of inventory at Amazon, and then all of a sudden you can't sell that brand. And that happened to me this week. So I've been getting packages back because I was able to sell this one particular brand, and now I can't even apply for it. And I had 47 units. So it's just irritating.
Yeah. It's a waste of money. It's irritating. It's a waste of time. And so as long as we can avoid that for our sellers, and luckily within Seller Snap, we've built really high rapport with Amazon. So we don't see a lot of deactivations within our sellers.
That's always helpful for people. I only have 2 questions when you're ready for them.
Go for it.
Okay. So my first one is, what kind of sellers see the biggest benefit from Seller Snap? Because I wonder about this because of selling private label items where I don't have competition. Is a repricer necessary? And then, wholesale arbitrage or all of the above. Just really which type of seller sees the biggest benefit, but especially with being a little bit more on the private label side where I'm only competing with me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a really important one. We really do have something for everyone, I will say. We specialize in buy box, but we do have solutions for private label, and we're actually in the process of building a solution, a proper solution, like velocity base for private label sellers. So number one, we welcoming feedback on how we can build the best solution. So if you have any thoughts on that, we would love to hear them.
That's a really interesting one, because I know a lot of people get their stuff on Alibaba, and so you'll see the same product under 6 different brands. So I assume, based on what you just said, that your AI, or maybe you can manually say, these are my 6 competitors, so that if I'm selling the same, I'll say avocado slicer, and Tina's selling an avocado
then you can
slicer,
just set the same prices as your competitor and follow.
And is that live right now?
So this is following multiple related ASINs. Now, this is a solution that some of our private label sellers use, where you just input the ASIN data from your competitors, and then we build averages, and then it's just dynamically repricing and copying them. So this is one thing that we have that works pretty well.
Which could be really interesting if in conjunction when you're doing Amazon ads and you're doing where you're targeting your competitor. So you show up on their product page, you can now not only target them through your ads, but then simultaneously be targeting on the repricing as well. And that would be an interesting strategy. I do know for myself and some like clients that I work with that will launch a new private label product, that is often what I will recommend to them is start off at a lower price point than you intend for your product to sell for, just to get those initial sales, to build ranking, to get reviews, and then slowly increment your price up to where your goal price is. Then once you're at that goal price, I could see still needing to reprice something, even if you're the only seller on it, especially if sales are kind of declining and you put that in the parameter for X amount of days, my sales have been less than this, for it to price your item down to hopefully entice some more sales to bring that rank back up. And then so you could still be doing that with a repricer. I can see how that analogy would work.
You can do this. You can also set only seller conditions as well. If you're the only seller on the listing, then you can set it to a different repricing strategy. You can even add conditions as well that say, I'm the only seller, then do a different strategy like a recurring price change, or just simply bringing the price down. Some of our private label sellers just really, really want it to just move up and down. So we just put positive or negative recurring price change. It just increases and decreases, kind of like a very slow yo-yo.
Yeah.
So that's also an option.
I got a side note on that. Would this work? Let's say you're a big shoe seller, right? And there's a lot of different colors and sizes of shoes. Could you then add the ASINs of the, let's say I'm selling the brown one and the black one is always changing on prices. So maybe I want to follow that, the other competition on the different ASINs. Would that work as well in that setting that you were showing?
So you're talking about the different SKUs, like following the different SKUs?
variation
different variations. So
like any ASIN that has relevant information on Amazon.com, you can follow them.
Perfect. Okay, that's interesting, because sometimes you get shoes and you see, oh goodness, I was pricing, all the shoes were $89.99 and now all of a sudden they've dropped to $49.99. I'm not getting any sales. So that is cool.
Yeah.
And I don't remember your other question, Tina. Sorry.
I haven't asked it yet.
Oh.
Were you going to share with us something here before I ask you?
No, I think this is all good. Go for it.
And my last one is pretty simple. It's, what are common mistakes sellers make when using repricers, even advanced ones like Seller Snap?
That's a good question.
That's a really great question. I think that a common mistake is getting really, seeing the win buy box strategy, for example, and wanting the kind of instant gratification over the long-term gain. Now, we see that the patience game with a repricer like ours is a really necessary thing. Allow the repricer to understand your individual competitive environment and learn over time. Rather than setting a more aggressive strategy at the beginning. We see kind of like investing in stocks, right? You let the stocks just sit and fluctuate. Yeah, exactly. And so, a common mistake is that. I definitely think that patience is the main thing, and not using our customer support. Our support team is really crucial to make the most out of the platform. We have 24/7 support through the app. So you can just contact directly through our support. But every seller who comes through the trial process gets an account manager who will be with them through the trial process and also beyond. So you'll have a direct meeting link. You can use that at any time you need. There is no limit. And so we're dealing with real-time support, but we're also dealing with the long-term goals, what we want to get out in the next quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, and seeing the long-term growth within our platform. So not using our support, we see that sellers don't make the most out of what we have to offer here.
Nice. And just something that popped into my head was during Q4, there's a lot of competition and everything. Do you have any suggestions for people that might be getting ready for their Q4 coming up here? Any suggestions or helpful insight?
Yeah, I think it's about using the different strategies like win buy box. We using them with the inventory age conditions and building these tiers mixed with the yo-yo. That actually we see moving from Q2 to 3 and 4, adjusting those strategies has a major impact moving on. That's the main one that comes to mind.
Nice. And then I did have a question that stemmed from meeting with somebody on Fiverr. They used, and this is kind of a very specific question. So they use Inventory Lab, and then they also use Seller Snap. And their question at the time was, they had an item, and I believe it cost $7.99. But then they had a prep center that also charged $1.90, and they wanted that entered in the cost of goods. I want you to show the audience here, if you could, how that looks, because I found it really interesting. In Inventory Lab, I've always put $7.99 plus the $1.90 to have all my cost of goods entered there, because that's what I was pulling for reports. But maybe you could show how it looks on this end, and then how you would pull reports for your CPA, for your, to see if you're profitable at the end of the month.
So number one, we've got the Inventory Lab integration that if you turn it on Inventory Lab side first, and then in Seller Snap, it's a really smooth integration. You see an error bar at the bottom, a status bar. So we're pulling a report every 6 hours. So your costs are constantly being updated in a FIFO system, first in, first out. And so the only listings that we don't bring in are items that are out of stock. So that's just important to know for Inventory Lab users. In terms of the cost, we will pull in whatever cost you put in an Inventory Lab, we'll put it into Seller Snap. If you do want to exclude any additional costs, you can, and then you can always add it into additional costs within Seller Snap. So you can see an additional cost field. You can just import additional _ cost in a CSV import or enter manually as well. And so that will be added onto the calculation anyway for your mints and maxes. So you can choose whether you want to input any additional costs into Inventory Lab or not, or enter them directly into the platform.
Interesting. And then do you have a report that you could pull at the end of the month that said this was all of my cost broken down and fees?
So that is a good question. Actually, our new feature data hub that we've just released has all of that information there. It's like a toggle that you turn on, and then it will just bring in all of the updated settlement reports every 2 weeks to make sure that your cost information at the time of sale is being used, and you can see all the breakdowns within that. But you can also see the export of all of your data, all the Amazon fees, fulfillment costs, etc., all in these columns, and you can export any data that you want and need.
Nice. Yeah, they were trying to figure out the best way to flow that cost of goods and then the cost of the prep center, and then have something to give the bookkeeper at the end of the month. And that was interesting. I like that they had a couple different prep centers, and of course prep centers are going to charge differently for whatever items. So they were kind of struggling with, do I just leave it in Seller Snap, or do I put it in Inventory Lab, or where to put that? those numbers.
Right. Yeah. That's a case by case basis, I think. And it's a
Yeah.
preference. But yeah, you can do either.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. And then
Yeah.
if anybody has any questions, this is the time. And then if you wanted to anything else that you wanted to say, maybe about why we should choose this over other items, or anything else you wanted to add in.
Yeah, it's I mean, at the end of the day, there isn't a perfect repricing solution. There's always going to be the thing that is standing out to you as a seller, the thing that's something that you 100% need above others. But I will say that we're a very adaptive solution that has been around the repricing game since the beginning. Actually, we've been in the game for about 8-9 years, so our AI is constantly developing, and we're bringing out an even newer version of the AI in the next couple of quarters. So that's where our investment is. And so, amongst other things, I will say that it's just worth giving it a go and trying out the free trial. Actually, that was very perfect timing. Somebody just asked a free trial, and I said exactly at that time. Thank you for that segue. Yes, we have a 15-day free trial. The process is very streamlined. You get assigned an account manager from my team. We will take you through the process and update you throughout the trial period with all the stats that you need and improvements and where to see the real benefit of the platform. And at the end, you decide. And so we have a month-to-month subscription. We also have the options for annual as well, coming out as well. And the price points depend on how many SKUs you have and seller IDs. We work with sellers who are just getting their feet off the ground. We work with sellers who have been around for as long as us. And yeah, we're very adaptive. So we love feedback. We love hearing the things that you're not seeing and how we can help you see the perfect platform, even though it doesn't, necessarily exist. And so my kind of last words are just give it a go and see if you like it. And there's no commitment.
Well, thank you very, very much for coming on the show today. We very much appreciated this.
I've loved it. So it's been great. Yeah.
Always fun to see what the different things are out there, and what it's nice to see companies grow and put some research and effort into the AI, because I don't think that's going anywhere. It's just such a game changer on so many ways. But
Agreed.
Thank you very much. And that's about it for, I think we got all the questions, right, Tina?
Yeah. Thank you, Georgie. It was a pleasure having you on. You're so sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it. And be in touch if there's any other questions. Of course, provide my information to follow up with any sellers.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. And everybody have a great weekend. And then we are not going to have a Sunday show next Sunday because it is Father's Day and we have plans. So we will be back the following Sunday. So I just wanted to announce that.
Yeah.
We
All
always
right, you guys. Have a good weekend.
Bye, everyone.